We want to make sure we record this that it has an opportunity to kind of hear it as we, there might be other folks that aren't able to join us today. I apologize for interrupting. But that we're going to be offering professional development, and we really do have a wonderful network of national organizations and leaders who are kind of driving some best practice and research on this work. And we hope to bring them to this community to ask them questions, to learn from what they're doing, and to see how that might apply on our campuses. What I love about this approach to a community of practice is the action-oriented nature of it and the opportunity for campus teams to come together and really develop an action that you'll be able to work on together over the course of the next 6 months, which is kind of what we see as this initial phase of this community of practice. We'll also be weaving throughout some change leadership components, because that is so essential, as we are all leaders on our campus and we're all doing different types of leadership activities and roles, but to really hopefully equip and strengthen everybody's ability to convene those cross-campus teams, drive continuous improvement, and really move the needle. And then finally, we'll also be launching, hopefully in January, an online kind of knowledge and resource hub that will be a community for this community and all other kind of topics under the big umbrella of student success, for colleagues across the state to be able to connect with one another, share resources, ask questions, and then kind of really build up our own knowledge and resource hub that's available forever, whenever needed. So more information on that as we get going. Okay, so I do want to switch gears and go to the interactive portion of today. Love to get your thoughts. If you've used a Mentimeter or been to menti.com before, just kind of, you can do it on your phone, you can do it on your computer, but just use the code. And then when you start, please tell us, what do you hope to get out of this community of practice? We'll kind of see this word cloud develop.
His own problem. It's pretty agreeable. Got that trouble genius thing going on.
Might have to resources, ideas, collaboration, healthy students, resources, networking, community partners. Okay. Fresh ideas, networking, learning, solutions, student needs, shared vision, connections, encouragement. Wonderful. This certainly is very aligned with the focus of this community of practice. Support is getting bigger, collaboration, shared resources, ideas, these are all some of the themes. And so I'm really excited that we're all here today and we'll be able to kind of build this out together. I'm going to move to the next poll. This is the last one. And there are a lot of non-academic barriers that students face. These are some of the top 6 that we've seen in the research. And so would love it if you wouldn't mind kind of ranking these from your perspective on your campus. which ones are your biggest challenges or your biggest barriers that your students are facing?
Wow.
Oh. Contribute here. This is really helpful, kind of getting a sense of where the students have the greatest need at this moment. Financial assistance is pretty far ahead, and physical and mental health right behind it. Number 2, security, housing, transportation, childcare. That certainly lines up with some of those top 2 topics of financial assistance and mental health as being some of our biggest priorities right now. So I thank you for sharing that perspective. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go into breakout groups, and there'll be 5 breakout groups, and each one will have a facilitator where we can kind of take these initial ideas that you shared out here, talk just with our colleagues across the state on what's going on your campuses, and we'll have a solid minutes in these breakout rooms, and then we'll kind of come back together and learn more about our next steps. Okay, so Man, go ahead and launch us.
Work forward in the way that you would want it to. So we just want to be really clear about how this is different. Before I jump into these slides, I just want to say that members of my team, I do this all across the country, but this is an extra special thing for me. I'm from Kentucky. I'm from Gold City. No one, I mean, you get a sticker or something if you know where Gold City, Kentucky is, but in Simpson County. And I was at Western Kentucky for 10 years. And at some point today, I've seen Martha Sales, who I haven't seen in many years. So good to see your picture here. And happy to be with you, and just look forward to working with you on this. Just a couple of guiding questions about, continuous improvement is something you hear it in manufacturing, you hear it in all kinds of different places, but it's not a natural language or orientation for higher ed, unfortunately. But it's some campuses are very serious about that, and some individuals, many of you, I spoke of Martha earlier. I know she knows about continuous improvement in her work that she does, but we think it's really important in a community of practice. So I'm just going to hit some high points on here about like what that means practically for this community of practice and for you. Show you a couple of tools, and then give you something to look forward to, basically. The whole thing with the continuous improvement is this is so often overlooked. And I think you'll totally get this, especially working with students. It's so easy to think that every problem has a solution, just like that's technical. So, if your phone's broken, there's a thing you can do. You can replace the screen or something. That's a single kind of task, right? Well, when you work with humans, especially whole humans, this isn't about just passing courses. I mean, the reason we're here is to talk about the whole student and the whole student's needs. We often use that term "wicked problem," like it's almost like if you pull a thread, if you fix one part of it, you've exposed another part. It's not just pull one lever, or there's no silver bullet solution. or any kind of like 10 steps or something. So, so the reason for sort of moving continuous improvement to like the center orientation of the community of practice is that it can give you a way to be very, very clear about the problem you're trying to solve in bite-sized chunks. So it's not like, so we realize you can't like show up and go, oh, we're going to fix, you know, the things we've been talking about so far, this very complicated constellation of needs that students have. But you can take steps toward that. You can have project-sized bites and win, you know, make progress and learn from that. And that's what this whole thing is about. So in that way, it's very non-academic in the sense that you don't have to start out with like knowing everything or like, you know, having the full every step plotted out in front of you. When I taught at Western Kentucky, I used this example where I would have I would bring in like a puzzle, a jigsaw puzzle in a big Ziploc bag, like 1,000 pieces, show it to students, say, what would you do with this? And they were like, well, this is really complicated because we don't even know what this is. We can tell it's a puzzle, but we don't know what. And you show them the box top lid and they're like, oh, okay. Now I can see like the blue pieces go down here, the red pieces over here. So you want to have a general idea of like that horizon that you're aiming for. But continuous improvement is not about like knowing every step of the way. So you can surrender that anxiety. you don't have to know that. You just got to know what are the big problems that are in front of you now, and what is a step that you can take, and then how can you learn from that step and improve, right? So it's a way of managing yourself, right? A couple things that you'll see in the community practice, and none of this requires you buying anything. You don't have to have special software. You don't have to have subscriptions to anything. Just simple exercises that help organize your thoughts and your work, right? The first is a driver diagram, and the other is the continuous improvement cycle itself. So let me just show you what a driver diagram looks like in a concrete example. So I know probably most of you or all of you have seen or worked with like logic models or theory of change, these kinds of things. It's like that in this way, but just think of this as like a practically useful logic model, you know, where you start over on the leftmost side of the screen, which is where you identify a general aim. And this could be like the for your campus team, it could be the thing that you want to aim for. And it can be pretty big, you know, not so big like, you know, erase student basic need. That's too big, but something that you feel like if you win that, you will have made a huge difference for your student. And so when you then take that aim, and as a group, as a campus team, with the support of the community, of course, of community practice here, is then break that down into a SMART goal. And if you've done that kind of work before, it's just making something actionable, you know, time bounding it, making sure there is things are specifically measurable, for example. Then you ask yourselves the question that you're gonna, it's so interesting on this, as I've worked with so many people. You feel the barriers that you have, like with your students, you feel it every day, all the time, but putting words on it is such a helpful practice, because as you say, like, what are not 50, but what are 3 or 5 of your primary barriers that are in front of you as a campus, and you name those things. And there's one key thing I always call out. I do this because sadly, we still actually hear this, but a primary barrier should not be our students just can't do this, or our students just aren't ready, or that's the ship has sort of sailed on that. They're there with you, right? And so this is about identifying like the ways in which your institution can better support them. And so we actually have spent some time, like we do a lot of developmental education, like remediation reform. And we spend a load of time with faculty what we call like just mindset, just positive mindset about the students and the ways that our systems need to change to accommodate the students. So just a note on the barrier is that it's the barriers that, not intentionally, of course, but the system in which they're a part sort of puts in their way, right? So you identify those things. And then when you bounce over to the rightmost column, you could just think of this as projects, sort of just in this way, discrete things that you can do as a campus team to just push. And that's the reason it's called a driver diagram. Like if you do that thing further, like at the right, it's going to drive toward addressing the barrier. That's then going to drive toward meeting your SMART goal, which ultimately is about meeting your aim, right? And so what this approach does, first, the process, and once you get this, it's just a nice thing to have, you know, because it communicates very clearly what you're doing on your campus for your students in this way. But it also, it serves multiple purposes. It's clear to yourself and to others. It gives you a common language. It helps you work through a lot of the things that you feel every day, but when you put words on it, it gives you and your colleagues an opportunity to look at it and say, yeah, yes, that, or, well, that's not exactly the way I'm experiencing it or what I'm thinking. And you, once you see it written down, it helps clarify where you're headed. The next step in this process, and just to be really clear and to say again, one function of this community of practice is to support you through doing this, is to help you do things like create your driver diagram and next your continuous improvement cycle. Now, I'm going to, and just so you know, Lily, this is where I'm going to stop. I'm not going to go down any deeper into this. It's just, I wanted to give you a clear idea of the kind of like physical thing, you know, that you would have in your hands to look at, to work with, to work on, and work toward. The reason that we call this a continuous improvement cycle and not a plan is because every camp, I would say, I would bet any amount of money that every one of you have some kind of strategic plan of some sort, probably many. You probably have many plans on your campus. Plans in themselves don't do much. I mean, the process that led to the plan is really valuable, but there's lots of strategic plans sitting on shelves all across the country. And so this isn't just about planning well, it's about setting up a cycle that creates a set of habits in you, a set of opportunities for you to reflect and learn in relatively short periods of time. So what you see on the left side here are 30, 60, 90. These are days. So in other words, what are the activities that we're going to do in this case, these 4 things in the first 30 days? Now, I always say here that the days themselves can be flexible. It doesn't necessarily have to be 30, 60, 90, but there is a good evidence that holding yourself to what seems like impossibility, like how could we possibly do anything in 30 days? But the idea is if you do these things and you learn quickly, and even when you learn something doesn't work the way you thought it would or hoped it would, you found that out in 30 days, you know, not in 6 months. So what it gives you a way to accelerate your work by learning and improving, right? And so, and of course, the point of the cycle is when you move through these things, and 100% guarantee you, these are going to change. Because when you start doing it, you know, this is the whole thing from the beginning is you might not, if it's 50 steps from where you are to where you want to be to meet your aim, you can't possibly know all 50 steps. But once you take like steps 1, 2, 3, you're going to know a whole lot more about steps like, you know, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? So this should be something that morphs and changes. But by it being time bound and cyclical, it just allows you to learn that quickly, right? And then you reflect as a group, you're going to see new barriers that arise. And so in that way, all these are like living documents. And And so, Lily, I'm going to stop here just with this comment and hand it back to you. And I'm, of course, can address any questions, anything that you have about this. Just want to stress again, like underscore, this is something that we're here to support you in doing. Support you with this approach, support you with creating at least the first iteration of like a driver diagram and a cycle, to help you test it, be successful, learn from it, and hopefully find out it's a really important tool for you. Yeah, I'll tag you back, Lily.
Okay, thank you. Well, folks, I would love to open it up if anyone has any questions, but I definitely want to share kind of the vision of the next 6 months that could hopefully, you know, engage us much more deeper in this work and this conversation. So today was really created to be an overview of what this community of practice is kind of designed to do, and then bring initial folks to the table to look for opportunities to we're starting to build those relationships and this connection, but I'm really excited about the next steps. So let me go ahead and share my screen again briefly, just to kind of walk through some of these pieces. So there are a lot of different ways to engage, and there's 3 actual primary ways to engage. The first one is just individually. If you want to join us, we'll have a monthly meeting where we'll be bringing some experts to touch on these priorities that you've identified for professional development. And we'll be able to share some of the best practices, some leading work at institutions, some great research that's going on, and have a real Q&A kind of format for you to ask questions and think about how this could work at your campus, or if there's anything that you want to do or take away from that could be helpful at your campus. Within each of these monthly meetings, we'll also have a good chunk that's dedicated to small group time and really getting to know each other and share how the work is going. Another way, so that's kind of an individual approach, if that works best for you. Secondly, we're going to be facilitating campus teams. And so we would love for a campus to actually have a coordinated approach to their student success, student basic needs work. And that is, you know, bringing together the different functional areas that are all have a different piece of this pie, or all might serve a different barrier that students are facing, and to work with, you know, through the facilitation from SOVA, really work to build out this continuous improvement cycle, that the collaborative is here to also support you and connect at that 30, 60, and 90-day point to see how things are going and what can we do to additionally offer support or services. Is there a roadblock we can help with? So those are pieces, that's kind of a team-based approach. And we would love for all of the campuses in Kentucky to create a team and come and be a part of that, where all of the teams, in addition to participating in that monthly PD and community learning piece or meeting, will also have an advance, which is just a more exciting word for retreat, where we will get together and have facilitated work group time with your team to develop out that driver diagram and that continuous improvement action plan, and receive consultation from Paul, Maisha, and others from the SOVA team about, you know, other things that they've seen as they've done this hundreds of times across the country to help campuses move forward. And then there's a third approach as well to being engaged in this work, and that is we're planning to convene a pretty diverse group of our community partners, those that are trying to offer supports to our students, leveraging federal, state, and community benefits to the maximum that will help our students, and also, you know, make those relationships at our campuses. And so that community team is going to also be invited to participate in the advance on January 21st to develop their own continuous improvement cycle and really identify these are the things that we want to move forward. And the intent is that whatever the community team works on is going to be designed to be relevant and helpful to all campuses in Kentucky. So that will be something that we'll be able to share back out with all campuses. So those are the different ways to engage. Phyllis, I'm hoping you can put that survey in the chat. And this is really an invitation, just kind of yep, I see it's already in there. let us know. This is kind of how we're going to build out this roster of who's going to participate in this community of practice. And you don't have to identify yourself as being on a team or doing an individual or being on a community group, but just, we want to make sure we have your information so that we can be sure to reach out to you as we continue to move forward. And so I hope that this overview conversation has been helpful to you to get a good sense of what this community of practice will offer. So on your campuses, please go back and discuss that option of forming a team, or potentially Phyllis Clark is going to be our point of contact for the community-based team. So the federal, state, and community resources available to students. And so please reach out to Phyllis. And Phyllis, if you don't mind putting your email address in the chat as well, related to the community team. And then we are planning to host an advance on January 21st from 12 until 4 p.m. So that is a half day. And I know that that's a pretty significant time commitment, but hopefully that is still some time that your team can set aside to work on student basic needs as a coordinated, cohesive effort. I did want to make sure I have time. If anybody has questions, please feel free to either put them in the chat or, feel free to ask right now. And Beth, Phyllis, and myself are all available if anyone would like to set up a quick chat and talk more about the different options and the pathways. We would love to chat with you and talk more about student basic needs work on your campus. And that's pretty much all that I had. Okay, so please fill out the survey. That's the number one most amazing thing that we would love for you to do. And then don't hesitate to reach out to us. We are going to send out the recording from this meeting. We're going to send out a calendar invite to the advance. And we'll be just kind of sharing more information as we move forward. Okay, folks. Excited to give you back a little bit of time today. Thank you so much for participating, and I really look forward to working with you soon.
Thanks, everybody.